Chapter 51-57. When the crowd saw that Jiang Wenyin was willing to give the bee spirit fruit to Bailey Hongzhuang, they were all dumbfounded. This Jiang Wenyin is really evil. He's actually willing to give the bee spirit fruit to Bailey Hongzhuang just like that. The D clan has really struck it rich this time. The spirit beast fruit itself is a rare treasure. Every time it appears in an auction, it will be fought over by various major forces. If one does not have the opportunity, it will not be easy to find one. Based on what I can see, Bailey Hongzhuang is standing there with this intention in mind. There is a tinge of jealousy in their envious voices. How could they not be envious of Bailey Hongzhuang for being able to obtain the treasure that everyone wanted so easily? However, just as the crowd was sighing, Bailey Hongzhuang's actions exceeded everyone's expectations. Thank you for your kind intentions, Sir Jiang. However, I cannot accept this bee spirit fruit. Jiang Wenyin was shocked. Why? Previously in the Divine Cloud Secret Realm, we may have helped you, Sir Jiang, but it was also for our own protection. If I were to take such a precious treasure from you because of this, it would be very inappropriate. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a small smile. Without waiting for Jiang Wenyin to reject her, she continued, "Since I'm standing here, I naturally intend to exchange my treasures." Jiang Wenyin's gaze changed when he saw the other party's serious expression, which did not seem to be an act. Instantly, the smile on his face grew even more radiant. "I've underestimated you, Miss Bailey. I'm truly sorry." A sense of shame surfaced in Jiang Wenyin's heart. In the face of Bailey Hongzhuang's open and above-board manner, he felt that his previous actions were rather inappropriate. Clearly, the other party was not the type to take advantage of others. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "Sir Jiang, you're being too courteous. Why are you apologizing? By the way, this is the treasure that I've chosen to exchange. You can decide after you've seen it." Bailey Hongzhuang placed the item on the conveyor belt and appeared in front of Jiang Wenyin in the next moment. Jiang Wenyin had already decided that no matter what Bailey Hongzhuang brought out in exchange, he would be willing to use a spirit beast fruit to exchange for it. However, when he saw what was in front of him, he could not help but be shocked. "Miss Bailey, is this true?" Although the crowd could not see what Bailey Hongzhuang had taken out, they knew that the item Bailey Hongzhuang had taken out was not simple after seeing the change in Jiang Wenyin's expression. Otherwise, Jiang Wenyin would definitely not reveal such an expression. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, her voice calm and certain. "That's right, it's true." Jiang Wenyin took a deep breath. Looking at the brocade box in front of him, his hands trembled slightly. Immortal Spirit Pill, this was truly a rare pill. Not to mention the fact that immortal spiritual herbs were hard to find and the failure rate of concocting was extremely high. Trying to find an immortal spiritual pill was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Even with the Jiang family's power, it would be extremely difficult to find one. He had never even considered the possibility of having an immortal spiritual pill. However, this immortal spiritual pill was now right in front of him. As long as he took the immortal spiritual pill, his potential would increase. This was a benefit that no other pill could compare to. Chapter 51-58. Although the bee spirit fruit was usually hard to find, it was still possible to find it in some secret realms. However, immortal spiritual pills were the real priceless ones. In the next moment, Jiang Wenyin handed all 3 bee spirit fruits to Bailey Hongzhuang without hesitation. "Thank you, Miss Bailey." Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the 3 bee spirit fruits in front of her and did not find it strange at all. The value of the immortal spirit pill was indeed worth it. When everyone saw that Jiang Wenyin had handed all 3 bee spirit fruits to Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes were filled with shock. It can't be. In the end, what did Bailey Hongzhuang take out in exchange for Jiang Wenyin to willingly give up all 3 spirit beast fruits? Jiang Wenyin didn't look reluctant at all. On the contrary, he was extremely happy, as if he had picked up a great bargain. What could be more precious than the Star Ocean Iron Essence? Judging from Di Xiaofeng and the others' expressions, they didn't seem to know what Bailey Hongzhuang had offered. Di Xiaofeng and the others looked at each other. They had been very surprised when Bailey Hongzhuang had rejected the offer, and the subsequent change had surprised them even more. It seems that we have underestimated the treasures on Hongzhuang's body. Lin Taxing could not help but chuckle as he joked. Di Xiaofeng nodded. Indeed, Hongzhuang may be the richest in our group. Isn't that so? Lin Qianqian agreed. Hongzhuang is the deacon of the Alchemist Guild. If it wasn't for the fact that she had just arrived in the upper realm, she would be even richer. Soon, Bailey Hongzhuang walked down from the high platform. Shangguan Yingying could not help but ask, Hongzhuang, what did you offer in exchange? Take a guess? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows and chuckled. I can't make a guess. Shangguan Yingying frowned. Every once in a while, new treasures would appear on Hongzhuang's body. She really could not tell. Hongzhuang, let me guess. Lin Qianqian's eyes lit up. Could it be the treasure we obtained in the Immortal Cloud secret realm? It was obvious that Lin Qianqian did not want others to know what she was talking about. However, Bailey Hongzhuang naturally understood what she meant. No, Lin Qianqian sighed. It's not you. But the two are related. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. She had no intention of hiding what she was going to exchange. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Xiaofeng and the others couldn't help but look at each other. Their pupils instantly widened, revealing astonishment and shock. Since the two were related, the first thing they thought of was the immortal spirit pill. However, this grade of medicinal pill was extremely difficult to refine in the first place, and the success rate was another matter altogether. They knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's alchemy skills were very strong, but they never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang could really refine it. This news was simply too shocking. Second cousin-in-law, you are too amazing, Lin Yi said in a daze. Her clear eyes were filled with excitement and admiration. Di Xiaofeng and the others also agreed. They were still thinking about how to deal with the immortal spirit grass after going back. Although there were two alchemists in the family, it was still difficult for them to successfully refine it with their abilities. However, if they wanted to ask other alchemy masters to refine it, they didn't know the price. Chapter 51-59. Following that, many precious treasures appeared, causing everyone's hearts to itch uncontrollably. However, if they wanted to exchange for such treasures, it was obviously impossible if the items they brought out were not rare enough. During this process, the Chu family and the Nangong family had successfully exchanged items. On the other hand, the Xiao family had kept a low profile. As for the Jun family, it was needless to say. The Jun family originally had very few cultivators. After going through the dangers of the Immortal Cloud's secret territory, they had completely integrated into the Xiao family's team and could be ignored. After obtaining the 3 bee spirit fruits, Bailey Hongzhuang did not have any other thoughts. Although there were many treasures, it was impossible for all of them to fall into her hands. She was already very lucky to be able to exchange for the treasures she needed the most. After the small trade fair ended, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to their residence. Di Xiaofeng and the others did not return to their rooms directly. Instead, they gathered in Di Beichen's room. Hongzhuang, did you really refine the immortal spiritual pill? As soon as he entered the room, Di Xiaofeng could not help but ask the question in his heart. He was simply too curious. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer, he had been wanting to confirm this point. Not only him, but Lin Taxing and the others also looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes sparkling with anticipation. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her small head gently, her rose-colored lips slightly raised. It's true. Hearing this news, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They were really worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would say no. In the next moment, a trace of joy appeared on everyone's faces. Hongzhuang actually managed to refine the immortal spiritual pill. That's really amazing. No wonder Jiang Wenyan was willing to hand over the 3 bee spirit fruits. Compared to the bee spirit fruits, the immortal spiritual pill is undoubtedly more helpful to him. Mo Yunjue immediately understood. Since Jiang Wenyan was willing to hand over the 3 bee spirit fruits, it meant that his contracted beasts no longer needed them. Of course, he would not hesitate to use such things to exchange for the treasures he desperately needed. Big brother, this is for you. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang took out a few crystal bottles and handed them to Di Xiaofeng. While I was in seclusion, I concocted quite a few immortal spirit pills. It just so happens that we still have some time before we return to Waterprayer City. With these immortal spirit pills, everyone will be able to cultivate better. As soon as these words came out, the expressions of everyone present froze. Time seemed to have stopped as everyone stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in disbelief, as if they had heard the most impossible thing in the world. Hongzhuang, you've concocted more than one immortal spirit pill? Why did he concoct so many immortal pills? Di Xiaofeng couldn't help but raise his voice. He felt that this world was too scary. According to his understanding, the success rate of refining immortal spirit pills was extremely low. It was already very difficult for Bailey Hongzhuang to refine one. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had placed a few bottles of pills in his hands. Yeah, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded matter-of-factly. I took a look and there were enough pills for everyone to share. That's why I came out. Lin Taxing couldn't help but scratch his head. In the face of this situation, he really didn't know what to say. Wasn't it said that immortal spiritual pills were very difficult to refine? Why did Bailey Hongzhuang's words sound like cabbages that could be picked up in baskets? This didn't make sense. Not only Lin Taxing, but Lin Qianqian and the others were also filled with the same thought. Chapter 5160. Lin Yi couldn't help but express her inner feelings. She felt that her second cousin-in-law was simply a legend. This young man's medical skills were already so exquisite. It was really too shocking. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have believed that there was someone so powerful. Listening to Lin Yi's words, everyone couldn't help but nod. They had the same idea in their hearts. Hongzhuang is really amazing. Hongzhuang, then Beichun, and I will distribute this medicinal pill. Di Xiaofeng's face was filled with a warm and bright smile. This was the credit of Hongzhuang and Beichun. Okay. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded with a smile. Everyone didn't stay in the house for a long time. After getting the immortal spirit pill, they couldn't wait to retreat. Naturally, the sooner they took this kind of medicinal pill to improve aptitude, the better. This way, they could spend less effort on cultivation later. Di Beichun also left. The number of cultivators from the Di family this time was not small. Now that he was the young master of the Di family, it was undoubtedly more appropriate for him to distribute this medicinal pill. Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also in a good mood. When I first came to the upper realm, I was worried that it would be difficult for Beichun to return to the family. I didn't expect everything to go so smoothly. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed with a chuckle. Xiao He sat on the table, facing Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate face. She imitated Bailey Hongzhuang's appearance, holding her cheeks with both hands. Yes, the male master's family is very good. Now, after this trip to the Immortal Cloud's secret realm, everyone knows his ability. Of course, they won't have any opinions. I see that everyone is very supportive of the elder brother. You don't have to worry about it in the future. Bailey Yanche's face bloomed with a devilish smile. He entered the Chaos Ring previously and didn't come back until everyone left. Ever since Bailey Hongzhuang recognized him as her younger brother, Bailey Yanche changed the way he addressed Di Beichun. After all, he was no longer in his demonic beast form, so this name was more appropriate. Not long after, Di Beichun returned. From a slight smile on his face, one could tell that he was in a very good mood. Beichun, is everything done? Di Beichun nodded. Everyone has basically started their closed-door training. Mistress. Little Xuanzi looked at Bailey Hongzhuang embarrassedly. It flapped its wings, and its eyes were full of excitement and expectation. Upon seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but chuckle. She immediately took out a bee spirit fruit and handed it to Xiao Xuanzi. Take it, it's yours. Looking at the round and translucent spirit beast fruit, Xiao Xuanzi had an intoxicated expression as he excitedly flew to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. "Mistress, you're the best." Bailey Hongzhuang stroked its head and proudly raised her eyebrows. "It's good that you know." I know, I've always known." Xiao Xuanzi nodded like a chick pecking at rice, excited and excited. Di Beichen pulled Xiao Xuanzi, who had been sticking to Bailey Hongzhuang, to the side. "Quickly go into the chaos ring and go into closed-door training." After sending away the clingy Xiao Xuanzi, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. "Wife, are you thinking of looking for Xiren and Yingying?" Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. Her originally delicate face became even more beautiful. "You know me the best." "Of course." Di Beichun pulled Bailey Hongzhuang's small hand and slowly walked towards the door. "Now let's go quickly. If we're late, I'm afraid that Xiren and the rest have already started their closed-door training." "Beichun, Hongzhuang, why are you here?" Shangguan Yingying opened the door and saw the two people in front of her. She was happy, but also a little surprised. Chapter 51-61. Hongzhuang has something for you. Di Beichun went straight to the point as soon as he stepped through the door. Shangguan Yingying and Wen Xiren looked at each other before their gazes landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang took out 2 beast spirit fruits. "These are for you." Looking at the 2 juicy beast spirit fruits, a smile appeared on Shangguan Yingying and Wen Xinya's faces. "Then I won't stand on ceremony with you." "Thank you." Shangguan Yingying blinked. "Of course." Bailey Hongzhuang smirked. "Why are you standing on ceremony with us?" "Brother, you've given us so many benefits. It looks like we'll have to hand our lives over to you." When Xiren looked at Di Beichun teasingly and laughed. Di Beichun shrugged. "Ever since you insisted on going on adventures with me when we were young, your lives have already been handed over to me. It's been so many years, and you still can't change a routine. I'm already yours. What else do you want?" When Xiren rolled his eyes. "But you're so rich. Who else can I rely on if not you?" Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Now that they, and Wen Xiren, had already become a family, they didn't even bother to exchange pleasantries with each other. Xiao Xuanzi has already gone into closed-door cultivation. The wild, earth-shattering tiger and the deep-sea demonic dragon should be able to improve significantly with these beast spirit fruits, Di Beichun said slowly. When Xiren nodded, "They've been cultivating in the pet space recently. I guess they've been stimulated by Baishur and the others. They're all contracted beasts, but there's a huge difference in their strength. When they were in the lower realm, the contracted beasts of the surrounding cultivators were not too powerful. Hence, the wild, earth-shattering tiger and the deep-sea demonic dragon did not feel much pressure. However, ever since they came to the upper realm and witnessed all sorts of powerful beings in the Divine Cloud Secret Realm, they were stimulated and became more diligent in their cultivation. It's good to give them some stimulation so that they can improve faster." Di Beichun's eyes were calm. The berserk earth-splitting tiger and the deep-sea demonic flood dragon are both very powerful races. Although the growth process is a bit difficult, once they grow up, they will be a great help. That's why I want to thank you for these 2 spirit beast fruits. Xiren raised the spirit beast fruit in his hand and smiled. Shangguan Yingying glanced at Wen Xiren before looking at Hongzhuang. "Hongzhuang, no matter what happens, you always think of us. I really don't know how to thank you. Don't be so courteous since we're sisters. Haven't you been helping us all this time?" "Hongzhuang, actually we have also obtained some rewards from the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm." Shangguan Yingying smiled mysteriously. In the next moment, a book appeared in her hand. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was a little surprised. "What's this?" "This is an inheritance that Xiren and I found in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm." Shangguan Yingying replied. "Previously, we couldn't find you all, right? During the process, we also found some spiritual herbs. We found this in a very hidden place in the middle of the spiritual herbs. Xiren and I have studied it. This should be real. Take a look." Bailey Hongzhuang took a closer look and realized that it was actually the rune technique. "Rune technique?" Di Beichun was a little surprised. It's said that the inheritance of the rune technique has been lost for a long time. I didn't expect you to find a book that recorded it. Chapter 5162. The things recorded on it are obscure and hard to understand, but they are mysterious and powerful. I have pondered for a while, but I only managed to get a grasp of it. Both of you are smart and have strong comprehension abilities. Why don't you try comprehending it? When Xiren looked at Bewitching and Shangguan Ying, I heard you talk about the last time Xiao So crushed the escape talisman and left. I feel that this talisman technique is quite powerful. If we can learn this talisman technique, it would be quite good. Originally, we wanted to give it to you, but there were too many people in the Immortal Cloud secret realm, so we didn't have the chance. After coming back, you immediately went into closed-door cultivation. If you didn't come to find us, we would have gone to find you. Shangguan Ying smiled and took out a Chinquan bag and handed it to Bailey Hongzhuang. These are the spiritual herbs we harvested. They are all for you. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't stand on ceremony and directly took the Chinquan bag. When the time comes, just tell me if you need any pills. Okay, the talisman technique is indeed a treasure. Since you're interested, why don't you study it first? Di Beichun slowly said. You don't know about this. When Xiren chuckled and pointed to the book in his hand, don't be fooled by the fact that this book is made of paper. It is very magical. Once you read it, the contents will automatically enter your mind. However, after Ying and I read it once, we found that the words on the book were getting fainter and fainter. I'm afraid that it won't be able to withstand a few people reading it. Since we already know the contents, you can imprint it in your mind. It won't be too late to study it in the future. In my opinion, if you want to understand this talisman technique, it won't be done in a short period of time. Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Ying finally understood and sighed in their hearts. I didn't think that this book would have the same effect as the Jade Slip, and it is even more powerful than the Jade Slip. The contents of the Jade Slip can only be read once by a cultivator, but this book can be read by a few people. Bailey Hongzhuang opened the book. As expected, the words on the book had faded. She only took a glance, and the contents of the book directly entered her mind. Subconsciously, she closed her eyes. Complex and profound information rushed into her mind. Fortunately, her knowledge, was extremely strong now, so she quickly recovered. After Bailey Hongzhuang read it, the content of the book became even fainter. Di Beichun took the book and memorized its contents. However, after the two of them took a look, the words on the book had completely disappeared, leaving only the white paper behind. This thing is really amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the blank book in her hand and suddenly realized that she could print the content she wanted to write into the book. She suddenly felt that it was interesting. This book is quite good as an inheritance in the future. If you like it, then you can keep it, Di Beichun said in a gentle voice. After this experience, I feel that when I have time, I should learn more abilities in other aspects. Shangguan Ying sighed. Mastering more abilities, I will have more means when I go out. This time, if it weren't for you, we would really be finished. Chapter 5163. Looking at Xiren's envious expression, Di Beichun couldn't help but chuckle. Weren't you worried about me when you first found out that I was a dark-type cultivator? That's because I didn't know you were such a pervert. Xiren looked calm. Look at what everyone says. Dark-type cultivators in the upper realm have always been discriminated against, but when it comes to you, the situation has changed. Didn't you already know that Di Beichun is a pervert? Shangguan Ying glanced at Xiren. I think, no matter what happens to them, there's no need to worry too much. There'll always be a solution. Is that what you said back then? Xiren looked at Shangguan Ying quietly. Why did he remember that Shangguan Ying was even more anxious than he was back then? Ahem. Shangguan Ying coughed softly and looked to the side. She said guiltily, I'm suddenly thirsty. I'll drink a cup of tea. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other with smiles in their eyes. It wasn't just Xiren. They remembered very clearly that when Shangguan Ying first found out about this, she was even more anxious than Xiren. However, They didn't plan to expose her. Not long after, Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangwan Yingying returned to the house. Since they had obtained the immortal spirit pill, they naturally had to consume it as soon as possible. The immortal spirit pill could increase a cultivator's aptitude and remove impurities from the body. It was extremely suitable for any cultivator. Time passed by in seclusion. Little Schwanzi returned to the pet space. He had made up his mind. With the beast spirit fruit, he had to improve as soon as possible. Otherwise, with his master's current strength, he wouldn't be able to help whenever he was in danger. Thinking back to when he was able to help in the divine cloud realm, that was the feeling he craved the most. Of course, he also hoped that he could break through to the nebula stage as soon as possible. Then, he could transform into a human. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun also began their seclusion at the same time. Looking at the perfectly round pill that was emitting a fresh medicinal fragrance, Bailey Hongzhuang put it into her mouth without hesitation. The immortal spirit pill melted in her mouth, turning into a rich medicinal power that surged into her body. This was an extremely pure energy. Bailey Hongzhuang felt as if her limbs and bones had become active under the surge of this energy. When this energy had completely spread out, Bailey she frowned. Under the influence of the medicine, the impurities in his body began to be expelled. But still, there were still pill toxins and other impurities in the end. The effect of the immortal spirit pill was to thoroughly remove the impurities in a cultivator's body. This way, the cultivator's body would be more suitable for cultivation. Previously, in the pool of light in the divine cloud realm, the impurities in her body had already been removed once. This time, after taking the mortal spirit pill, it should be even more thorough. Although the result of removing the impurities was excellent, the process was very torturous. This feeling was as if someone was hammering every cell in her body, removing the tiniest impurities. In fact, it wasn't just Bailey Hongzhuang. The cultivators from the D family and the Lin family were all in the same situation. The immortal spirit herb was discovered by all of them. Naturally, everyone should have a share of the immortal spirit pill. Chapter 5164. In reality, when the cultivators from the D family and the Lin family received the immortal spiritual pills, they were also extremely shocked. They could not believe that this was all real. Even though they had discovered the immortal spiritual herb together, they knew how rare the immortal spiritual pill was. Therefore, they felt that it was already good enough that they would be given some other cultivation resources when they returned to their families. They did not expect that the immortal spiritual pill would actually fall into their hands. This feeling was no different from a pie falling from the sky. They had suddenly been hit by a stroke of luck. One immortal spiritual pill was enough for them to exchange for any cultivation resources they wanted. However, no one would choose to exchange it. This was because the immortal spiritual pill was the most precious treasure. When Bailey Hongzhuang exited her cultivation, the first thing she did was to take a shower. She had to admit that every time she purged the impurities from her body, the smell was extremely unpleasant. However, as the impurities in her body were reduced, it was much better than the first time she had undergone the cleansing. It was because of this that she had chosen not to go in a closed-door cultivation with Di Beichun. Otherwise, even she could not stand the smell. If it appeared in front of Di Beichun, it would be even more unbearable for her. When Bailey Hongzhuang came out, she realized that Di Beichun had already finished his closed-door cultivation. It looked as if he had been waiting for her to come out. Di Beichun, when did you come out of closed-door cultivation? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled as she sat beside Di Beichun. She casually picked up the food on the table and started eating. After purging the impurities from her body, she felt as if she was about to starve to death. Not long before you, Di Beichun smiled. I knew that you would definitely feel hungry, so I prepared food for you. Hearing those magnetic and heartwarming words, Bailey Hongzhuang, who was eating, smiled brightly. Hubby, every time I see you being so considerate, I feel that my luck is really good. It looks like my wife really feels that she is very lucky every moment. Bewitching reached out and stroked Bailey Hongzhuang's soft and smooth hair. After all, your husband has always been so considerate. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned for a moment. Then her smile became even brighter. That's right. Have you gone out to take a look? Is everyone out of seclusion? Bewitching shook his head slightly. I'm afraid it will take a while for everyone to come out. You're right. Bailey Hongzhuang understood. She and Beichun had already experienced it once in the ruins, so the process now was naturally much simpler. The other cultivators would need to spend more time. Then what do you plan to do now? I plan to take a look on the deck. Beichun said slowly. We're already used to cultivating on the deck. There won't be any danger. I have the same idea. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Previously, after cultivating on the deck, their physical strength had improved. Since they still had the chance, it wouldn't be bad to train again. When they returned to Chishui City, they might be able to improve again. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Beichun returned to the deck, they saw that familiar figure as expected. Chen Feng. Beichun raised his eyebrows. Although he was asking, his voice was very calm. In fact, when he chose to come to the deck, he had already guessed that Chen Feng would be here. This guy was also a cultivation maniac. Chapter 5165. I finally understand why you're so strong. You really don't let go of any opportunity to improve. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but sigh. When he didn't know Chen Feng, he didn't feel it. Now that he knew Chen Feng, he admired him even more. Hearing that, Chen Feng chuckled. If someone else said that about me, I wouldn't care. However, I don't dare to accept your praise. If we're talking about diligence, you two should be even more diligent. Even though Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Tinga hadn't returned to the deck during this time, he knew that they definitely didn't let go of any opportunity to cultivate. Coming from the lower realm, they were able to stand out among so many cultivators. This was enough to prove their diligence. In the past, he had always been very confident. Every time he went out, he was undoubtedly the number one. However, ever since Beichun appeared, he felt a sense of urgency. If he didn't seize the time to improve himself, he wouldn't be able to keep his position. Same to you. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. Only then did they sit down and cultivate. The gale clearly blew past, bringing with it a sharp pain. However, the three of them acted as if nothing had happened. However, as the three of them cultivated for a longer time, the number of cultivators on the deck gradually increased. Mo Yunjue was the fourth to arrive on the deck. When he saw Beichun and the other two, he was also somewhat surprised. However, he quickly blended in with them. Immediately after, Shangguan Yingying and Xiren also arrived on the deck. They originally planned to study runes first. However, after thinking that they would only have such a good opportunity to train their bodies on this flying artifact, they naturally didn't want to miss it. Therefore, they decided to come on the deck. In any case, when they returned, they would have plenty of time to study it. Time gradually passed in this process. They were also getting closer and closer to Chishui City. Today was an extremely lively day in Chishui City. All the major powers that were participating in the Immortal Cloud Secret Zone were gathered here. Today is the day that the young master and the rest return. I wonder how their harvest in the Immortal Cloud Secret Zone was? A faint smile appeared on Di Hingyun's face. He was actually not too worried. This time, a lot of people from his family entered. As long as they cooperated with others and didn't encounter too much trouble, there shouldn't be too big of a problem. I hope it'll be good. Great Elder Emperor Chu Yuan's eyes were filled with anticipation. In the blink of an eye, it's already time for them to come out. I only hope that they can all return safely. Di Yunhe sighed when he heard that. Of course, their biggest wish was to come back safely. However, they knew that as long as they entered, there would be casualties. It was unavoidable. The elders of various forces had gathered here and were chatting in twos and threes. Their faces were filled with joy and anticipation. Of course, there were also some elders who were worried. When the disciples of the smaller sects entered the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, they would face greater risks than the disciples of the bigger sections. Regarding this, they felt very helpless. But even so, they couldn't give up just like that. This was because this was a good opportunity to improve the strength of the clan's disciples. If they missed this opportunity, the progress of the clan's disciples would be even slower. Chapter 5166. As Di Hongyun's voice fell, Di Chu and Yuan both turned to look at something not far away. Sure enough, Jun Xianxiao was standing there with his head raised in anticipation. A faint trace of worry could be seen on his face. Usually, whenever we gather together, Jun Xianxiao will try his best to stand by our side. I didn't expect him to stand so far away this time. He must be avoiding us on purpose. Di Yunhe sneered. The competition between the two sides had never stopped over the years. They were already used to Jun Xuanxiao's way of doing things. However, the situation was different this time. Di Chuyuan glanced at Jun Xianxiao. Since there is such an opportunity, we can't miss it. He remembered clearly how proud Jun Xianxiao was when he thought that their family didn't have an 8th grade alchemist. He wanted to trample them under his feet. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth had always been his style. Jun Xianxiao wanted to hide from him this time, but he wouldn't let him do as he wished. Let's go. Hearing Di Chuyuan's words, Di Hongyun and Di Yunhe exchanged glances with each other as a knowing smile appeared in their eyes. Jun Xianxiao was waiting for the flying device to arrive quickly. This time, their family only managed to get 10 places, and they had to do everything they could to get them from the Xiao family. Jun Xianxiao had never encountered such a situation in the history of the Jun family. He felt very helpless. Since Jun Lingxuan and the others entered, he had been very worried. After all, the number of people was too small. If some of them met the Di family's cultivators, they would be in big trouble. Great Elder, you don't have to worry. Our family has already joined forces with the Xiao family. If there is really trouble in the Immortal Cloud secret territory, Xiao Sou and the others won't sit by and do nothing. The second elder couldn't help but say. He knew the Great Elder's worries, but he didn't think it would be so bad. Hearing this, Jun Xianxiao nodded. I hope so. Although he knew that the Xiao family had joined forces with them, he couldn't help but worry. He didn't know why, but he always had a bad feeling. Just as they were talking, Jun Xianxiao suddenly found that Di Chuyuan and the others had appeared beside him. Elder Jun, you didn't take the initiative to look for trouble this time. This isn't in line with your usual style. A mocking voice rang out. That person looked at Jun Xianxiao indifferently. His face was filled with mockery and ridicule. Jun Xuanxiao's face suddenly darkened. He coldly glanced at Di Chuyuan. Di Chuyuan, I don't want to talk nonsense with you today. Normally, we don't want to talk nonsense with you, but there are always people who don't have eyes and come knocking on our door. What do you think? Di Chuyuan raised his eyebrows slightly. His gaze was calm, but in Jun Xuanxiao's eyes, it was extremely hateful. Don't try to fool me. You were just lucky this time. We'll see in the future. Jun Xianxiao glared fiercely at Di Chuyuan. His roar was filled with anger. Elder Jun, you're too impatient. There are so many people here. You should pay attention to your status. Di Yunhe couldn't help but say. Chapter 5167. Jun Xianxiao, I'm just reminding you out of kindness. Di Chuyuan's face was full of smiles, but his voice was cold and chilling. Actually, only 10 cultivators from your family entered. Judging from the danger level of the Immortal Cloud Mystery Land, they might have all been wiped out. You have to be mentally prepared. Otherwise, when you hear the news, you won't be able to bear it and pass out. That would be bad. As Di Chuyuan's voice fell, Jun Xuanxiao's face turned red in an instant. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked like an angry lion. You don't have to worry about that. Don't think that you'll be fine just because you have more cultivators in your family. If you're unlucky, you might encounter a great danger and be wiped out. If all the cultivators in our family are wiped out, won't the cultivators in your family be even more so? Di Chuyuan didn't care about his anger at all. In fact, the more unhappy he was, the happier he was. After all, the Jun family had been trying to replace the Di family all these years. They deserved it. However, in the face of Di Chuyuan's words, Jun Xianxiao didn't know what to say, because even he knew that it was the truth. It's impossible for all the cultivators in our family to be wiped out. You just wait and see. The second elder's face was also full of anger. He looked at the D family fiercely, and his words were full of confidence. Wait for us later. When the young master and the others come out, you'll know. Jun Xianxiao nodded. You just wait and see. Then we'll wait and see. Di Yuna's eyes were full of disbelief. Looking at the other party's proud face, Jun Xianxiao felt like he was about to explode. However, he couldn't explode on the spot, so he could only hold it in. The surrounding forces also looked at each other after noticing this scene. The D family and the Jun family had been enemies for a long time, so this situation wasn't unexpected. In fact, every time the two sides appeared, they were at each other's throats. They had never eased up. Not long after, the huge flying magic tool appeared in everyone's line of sight. With the appearance of the flying device, a smile appeared on everyone's face. After waiting for so long, it was finally here. Soon, the flying magic tool stopped at the shore. Look, there are already people on the deck. Many elders with sharp eyes noticed the silhouettes on the flying magic tool. So, they immediately spoke out. Isn't that Chun Feng from the Great Devil Sect? That's right, it's him. The other two look like the young master and young madam of your family. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun were extremely beautiful, so most people would never forget them after seeing them. Therefore, with just a glance, he was able to recognize it. Di Chiyuan and the others' eyes lit up when they heard this. They immediately looked at the deck. As expected, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun's bodies and minds were so eye-catching. Immediately, they felt relieved, although they had always been quite confident. As long as they had not seen it with their own eyes, they could not help but feel a little worried. Although they had only seen the two of them, they were already relieved. It really is the young master and his wife. Di Yuna's face was full of smiles, and the cultivators behind him were also very happy. Chapter 5168. Jun Xianxiao. It seems like your fantasy has been shattered. Di Chuyuan glanced at Jun Xianxiao indifferently. Although his voice was very calm, Jun Xianxiao could hear his complacency and pride. So many people from your family went, and now only a few of you are on the deck. What is there to be proud of? Maybe you were pushed out. Jun Xuanxiao's face was cold, but his words were full of jealousy. Elder Jun, what do you mean by that? Are you saying that Chun Feng from the Great Devil Sect was also pushed out? The elder of the Great Devil Sect quickly walked over when he saw Chun Feng. When he passed by Jun Xianxiao, he heard his words, and his face immediately collapsed. Jun Xianxiao was stunned when he heard this. When he turned around and saw the elder of the Great Devil Sect, he was embarrassed and hurriedly explained, I didn't mean that. I hope you didn't mean that. Humph. The elder of the Great Devil Sect snorted coldly, turned around, and left. Obviously, Jun Xuanxiao's words made him very unhappy. Jun Xianxiao was speechless as he looked at the elder's back. He didn't notice Chun Feng at all, and he didn't expect the people of the Great Devil Sect to be nearby. Suddenly, such a conflict happened. He was really helpless. Di Chuyuan chuckled, thinking that Jun Xianxiao also had such a day. When Jun Xianxiao thought that victory was in his hands, he was so arrogant in front of him. Every dog has its day. Who would have thought that their young master's wife would have such ability? In my opinion, the young master and Chun Feng from the Great Devil Sect are probably using the wind to temper their bodies on the deck. Di Yunha's voice slowly sounded. As an elder, he naturally had some understanding of the situation. In fact, everyone had always known that staying on the deck would help cultivators improve. However, it was one thing to say and another to do it. Even though everyone knew this, there were very few cultivators who could actually do it. That might be the case. Di Hengyun's voice was somewhat hesitant. However, the process is very torturous. After the flying magic tool successfully stopped, the cultivators in the flying magic tool also knew that they had finally arrived at Qishui City. One after another, they walked up from the deck. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were undoubtedly the first to know about this. They had already seen the crowd from afar. Beichen, look. Bailey Hongzhuang pointed ahead. First elder and the others are already waiting for us. Looking in the direction that Bailey Hongzhuang was pointing at, Deep Beichen and the others saw the great elder and the others as expected. Smiles appeared on their faces. In the blink of an eye, we have already left for such a long time. What a pity, Shangguan Yingyin could not help but say. Although we've been on a flying celestial artifact these days, I still miss the feeling of being on the ground. Xiren chuckled. Let's go, let's get down quickly. At the same time, Di Xiaofeng, Lin Taxing, and the others also walked to Di Beichen's side. They greeted each other and got off the flying celestial device together. First young master and the others are all there. Di Hingyun's face was full of surprise. Although only a part of the cultivators could be seen, judging from the situation, there are not many casualties this time. Chapter 51-69. All the major forces were looking for their own cultivators from the figures that appeared on the flying celestial devices, and the Jun family was no exception. Why haven't we seen the young master yet? The second elder of the Jun family looked for Jun Lingxuan and the others for a long time, and a trace of worry appeared on his face. Don't worry, there are still many people who haven't come out yet. Jun Xinxiao said slowly. He was also anxious, but he didn't want Di Chuyuan and the others to find out. Seeing this, Di Yunhe couldn't help but joke. It seems that your family is really wiped out this time. When you go back, I'm afraid you'll have to support a new young master. Yinyi, stop talking nonsense. The Jun family is not like what you said. Jun Imo Xie retorted. Jun Xinxiao shouted coldly, and his serious face was full of anger. The next moment, he noticed that Jun Lingxuan had finally appeared in front of him, and he immediately relaxed. Di Yunhe, didn't you just say that our family was wiped out? It seems that your hope has also been dashed. Second young master quickly followed up and said, Look carefully, our young master has already come out. Di Yunhe turned around and saw Jun Lingxuan and Xiao Sou. He narrowed his eyes and said, It seems that Xiao Sou and Jun Lingxuan are really together. Hearing Di Yunhe's words, Di Chuyuan and the others also noticed the situation in front of them, and they immediately frowned. In fact, they had always known that Jun Lingxuan was pursuing Xiao Sou, but they didn't expect that the two of them would progress so quickly. No wonder the Xiao family gave 10 places to them. It seems that they have already regarded Jun Lingxuan as their son-in-law. Di Hengyun snorted coldly. They're really quick to fall in love with someone else. Di Chuyuan, you're right. Our Jun family has replaced your family and become friends with the Xiao family. Xiao Sou and our young master are the real couple. Jun Xinxiao immediately regained some sense of superiority, and a big smile bloomed on his face. This was the happiest thing for the Jun family recently. After so many years, they had finally joined forces with the Xiao family. So what if they become a couple? Di Chuyuan's expression was indifferent. Aren't they still forced together because they can't get what they want? Jun Xuanxiao's expression stiffened. He naturally knew that Xiao Sou had a crush on Di Beichen. You can only find the right person after seeing through the other party. Do you really think that Xiao Sou, as the saint of the light, will fall in love with Di Beichen? Isn't it? Di Hengyun said matter-of-factly. I thought you had already seen through this. I didn't expect Elder Jun to be so blind. Jun Xinxiao, who was about to mock Di Hengyun, almost spat out a mouthful of blood when he heard Di Hengyun's words. This guy's words were too harsh. Di Hengyun didn't even give him a chance to refute. What was with this assertion? When Jun Lingxuan walked down from the flying instrument, his heart was extremely heavy. Although they were already in a bad situation when they went to the Immortal Cloud Mystery Realm, when they really returned, he really felt that it was difficult to face the family elders. Chapter 51-70. After listening to Xiao Sou's comforting words, Jun Lingxuan nodded, but his mood did not calm down. He could not accept the departure of the others, but he could not accept the departure of Chu Shitao. Thinking of this, he wished he could kill Di Beichen and the others, but with his current ability, it would be good enough if he was not killed by them. This kind of frustration was simply indescribable. First Elder June, have you noticed that among the 10 cultivators of the June family, only June Lingxuan has appeared? Di Yunhe had been looking for the cultivators of the June family. After seeing most of the familiar figures, he was completely relieved. However, in the process of observation, he also noticed that apart from June Lingxuan, there were no other cultivators of the June family. Hearing Di Yunhe's words, Jun Xianxiao was slightly stunned. After taking a closer look, he was shocked to find that only June Lingxuan and the Xiao family's team had appeared. Apart from them, there was no one else. Where is the second young master? The second elder was stunned. Generally speaking, wherever the young master is, the second young master should be there. Everyone in the June family knew about the brotherhood between Jun Shitao and Jun Lingxuan. At this time, Jun Shitao would never be far away from Jun Lingxuan. Wait a little longer. Jun Xuanxiao's face darkened. For some reason, the bad premonition in his heart gradually deepened. Not long after, Di Xiaofeng and the others arrived in front of the elders. First elder, we are back. Looking at the members of the Jun family in front of them, Di Chuyuan and the others' faces were full of smiles. It's good that you're back safely. On the other side, Lin Xuan, the first elder of the Lin family, also received Lin Taxing and the others with a happy face. Young master, why is there only Jun Lingxuan in the Jun family? Di Hingyun asked curiously. Almost as soon as Di Beichen and the others arrived, Di Hingyun could not help but ask the question in his heart. Hearing this, Di Beichen glanced at Jun Lingxuan, who was not far away, and said, "It seems that he's the only one left from the Jun family's team." The elders of the Di family, the Lin family, and the Jun family were all stunned. Then the members of the Di family and the Lin family all had mocking expressions on their faces. Great Elder Jun, it seems that the heavens haven't been unkind to you. At least one person has been left behind for you. Di Chuyuan chuckled as he recalled Jun Xuanxiao's smug look. The current situation was extremely ironic. Jun Xianxiao couldn't care less about Di Chuyuan's mockery. He couldn't believe this result, because there were only a total of 10 slots. Those who entered the Immortal Cloud Mystic Realm this time were the most outstanding disciples of their clans. However, only Jun Lingxuan had returned. This was a great loss for them. Di Beichun, Di Xiaofeng, and the others looked at each other. If they had found a chance later, they would not have let Jun Lingxuan come back alive. Let's go back. After all the disciples of the Jun family had returned, Di Chuyuan was in a good mood and led everyone back to the elixir shop. He didn't need to say anything more. The situation of the Jun family was enough to give Jun Xianxiao a huge blow. At least, the Jun family could not be arrogant in the short term. Chapter 5171. Great Elder, Young Master, is what Di Beichen said before true? You're the only one who came back. Jun Xianxiao looked at Jun Lingxuan with burning eyes. This result was really unacceptable. Di Beichen said it already? Jun Lingxuan's face suddenly sank. I didn't expect this guy to be so hateful. He didn't have to think about it to know that Di Beichen must be mocking them when he said this. His hands clenched into fists, and his heart was burning with anger. After hearing Jun Xuanxiao's words, the elders of the Jun family immediately understood that everything Di Beichen said was true. Jun Xianxiao couldn't help but take 2 steps back. This news was really a big blow. Great Elder, are you okay? Looking at Jun Xuanxiao's pale face, Jun Lingxuan asked quickly. Jun Xianxiao waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Let's go back first." After Xiao family's elder, Xiao Jinfeng, learned about the situation of the Jun family, his expression was also complicated. This situation was really too tragic. Fortunately, Jun Lingxuan came back safely. If Jun Lingxuan also lost his life in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, then their Xiao family really didn't know what the use of getting close to the Jun family was. Looking at the imposing Di family on the other side, he couldn't do anything no matter how helpless he was in his heart. At this point, he could only accept it calmly. After returning to the elixir shop, the elders couldn't help but ask about what happened in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm. Lin Xianxian and Lin Yi were naturally the first to stand up and began to talk about the situation inside vividly. Bailey Hongzhuang and others simply sat aside to drink tea and eat snacks. Anyway, this moment was most suitable for the two sisters to express themselves. Of course, the most active one was Lin Yi. The great elder and others listened to Lin Yi's vivid words, and a look of surprise appeared in their eyes. The situation in the Immortal Cloud secret realm is so dangerous. Di Chuyuan and others were also scared after learning about what happened in the Immortal Cloud secret realm. They really didn't expect the situation to be so dangerous. Thanks to second cousin and second cousin-in-law who turned the tide. If it weren't for them, I'm afraid we wouldn't be able to come back alive. Even though it had been so long, Lin Yi still had a lingering fear when she mentioned it. The elders looked at each other and sighed in their hearts. This kind of situation was really beyond their expectations. Similarly, they did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen's performance would be so outstanding. If it wasn't for everyone's occasional emphasis, they would have found it hard to believe that all this was true. At night, Di Xiaofeng, Di Beichen, and Bailey Hongzhuang went to the Bailey family's residence together. Now that the experience was over, they had to go back to the family first. Before leaving, they at least had to say goodbye to Bailey Yunyan. The great elder of the Bailey family was undoubtedly very surprised. Not to mention that their family's quota to enter the Immortal Cloud secret realm was given by the Di family. If it weren't for the Di family's protection this time, how could they come back safely after entering the Immortal Cloud secret realm with their ability? In fact, these days he had been worried. Many forces even believed that they would be annihilated. However, he never expected that all the family's children would come back safely. It was simply unimaginable. Chapter 5172. Young Masters D. Miss Bailey, you're here. Please come in, come in. Bailey Misong's face was full of smiles. Please sit here for a moment. I'll call Yin over. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two sat down with faint smiles on their faces. After this incident, their relationship with the Bailey family had become much closer. Big brother, from Elder Bailey's reaction, it seems like she can't wait for you to marry Yun Yin as soon as possible. Di Beichen's lips curved into a playful smile as he looked at Di Xiaofeng teasingly. Di Xiaofeng looked at Di Beichen helplessly. Are you that eager for me to find you a sister-in-law? I'm not the only one looking forward to it. The entire family is looking forward to it. Di Beichen chuckled. It's still too soon. Yin hasn't accepted my feelings for long. Aren't you afraid of scaring her? Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly. It was true that he liked Bailey Yunyan. He also knew that with his status, the Bailey family definitely wouldn't object to this marriage. However, he wasn't an impulsive person. He liked Yunyan, but at the same time, he needed to give her some time together. If he rushed for quick success, he would lose more than he gained. Big brother is right. We have plenty of time anyway. There's no need to rush. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen. Do you think I'm the same as you? Wife, when I pursued you, I had to wait for a long time. Di Beichen spread out his hands with an innocent expression. I'm just worried for grandmother. The last time I left, grandmother secretly asked me about this. When she heard that Yin Yin would be here, she asked me to find a way to help you guys. Di Beichen smiled. It's your fault for not revealing anything. Otherwise, grandmother wouldn't be so curious. Hearing this, Di Xiaofeng finally understood. He felt even more helpless. I'll tell you when I get back. That's good. Di Beichen finally showed a satisfied expression. While they were talking, Bailey Yunyan quickly rushed over. Why are you here? Her pretty face was filled with indescribable joy. This time in the Immortal Cloud secret realm, it could be said that she had spent the longest time with Di Xiaofeng. In the past, she had always been worried that her status wasn't good enough for Di Xiaofeng, and his family wouldn't agree. But fortunately, this situation hadn't happened yet, so she could quietly breathe a sigh of relief. Yunyan. Seeing Bailey Yunyan's appearance, Di Xiaofeng stood up with a joyful smile on his handsome face. We're here to say goodbye. Since we're back, We naturally have to make a trip back to the clan. Bailey Yunyan nodded, but a trace of sadness flashed through her eyes. I understand. She was very clear that coming back meant that they had to part. Whether it was Di Xiaofeng or her, they both needed to go back to their families. However, when she was faced with it, she still felt a little sad. Because once they were separated, they didn't know when they would be able to meet again. We'll look for you in a few days, Di Xiaofeng quickly said. Hearing this, a trace of light appeared in Bailey Yunyan's eyes. Really? Chapter 5173. What's more, Hong Zhuang also has matters to attend to at the Bailey family. Di Xiaofeng smiled faintly. When you go back if you have time, can you help me check the genealogy? Bailey Yunyan turned to Bailey Hong Zhuang. Hong Zhuang, don't worry, I'll definitely look into it when I go back. Then I'll have to trouble you. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. Even if she already knew everything in her heart, it would be best if she could confirm it. What's so troublesome about this? Speaking of which, I've always been the one troubling you. If I can do something for you, I'll be the happiest. Bailey Yunyan's eyes shone with sincerity. She was truly grateful towards Bailey Hong Zhuang. All right, what about Nangong Xiaolong? When will we bring him to see Miss Shi-Er? Di Xiaofeng suddenly thought of this incomparably hateful fellow. Although he had already taught this fellow a lesson last time, he still felt unsatisfied. Of course, the most important thing was to untie the knot in Bailey Shi's heart. Hearing this, a trace of hesitation appeared on Bailey Yunyan's face. That's right, sure isn't in the family right now. I'm afraid we won't be able to go for a while. Don't worry, the poison I gave Nangong Xiaolong won't take effect quickly. However, it's not possible for him to find someone to cure it. We can go back to the family first and deal with this matter later. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. Her delicate and elegant face was filled with confidence. Big brother, you can go to the Nangong family later and let them know. As long as Nangong Xiaolong can't cure the poison when he goes back, he'll have to come to us in the end. The Nangong family's power is not small. I'm sure they'll try to find a doctor to cure the poison when they go back. Is there really no problem? Bailey Yunyan couldn't help but look at Bailey Hong Zhuang. This was too difficult. Don't worry, if Hong Zhuang says there's no problem, then there naturally won't be a problem. Di Beichen spoke up. Di Xiaofeng also completely believed Bailey Hong Zhuang's words. He was very clear on how outstanding Bailey Hong Zhuang's medical skills were. That's good. Bailey Yunyan let out a sigh of relief. I must make him kneel in front of Shi-Er and apologize. If it wasn't for him, Shi-Er wouldn't have become like this. Go back and talk about it. If possible, let Shi-Er go back to the family. It's not good for her to be alone outside. Di Xiaofeng sighed. He couldn't help but sympathize with Bailey Shi when he first met her. Bailey Yunyan nodded. I had the same plan. Actually, I didn't really want to chase Shi-Er out. It was just that no matter how I asked her who the other party was, she wasn't willing to tell me, to the family's family. Now that everything has been revealed, I'm sure the family's head is worried about Shi-Er. It would be best if we could bring Miss Shi-Er back. Bailey Hong Zhuang's expression relaxed. When the time comes, let Nangong Xiaolong go to your family and apologize. Bailey Yunyan's eyes flashed with a strange light. That's right. That guy is so bad. He must be punished. Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen didn't stay for long. They left early. Di Xiaofeng and Bailey Yunyan were going to separate tomorrow. Tonight, they naturally had to leave some space for themselves. Early the next morning, the Di family and the Lin family embarked on their return journey. Chapter 5174. The Di family. Di Linxian, Xiao Wanrong, Di Yujua, Lin Yinxing, and the others have been looking forward to it. After not seeing each other for such a long time, they could not wait to see their own children. Beichin and the others have only just returned, and they've already gone to the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. I really miss him. Xiao Wanrong's face was filled with emotion and anticipation. She was extremely satisfied with her precious grandson and granddaughter-in-law. They had been wandering outside for so many years, and she only hoped that they could stay at home more often. It would be good if she had the chance to see them more often. Looking at Xiao Wanrong's anxious look, Di Linxian could not help but smile. Usually, you're always looking forward to Xiaofeng's return. Of course I'm looking forward to it too. Xiao Wanrong's face was serious. It would be great if that little brat could bring back a granddaughter-in-law sooner. Otherwise, when Bewitching has a child and we don't know where he is, that would be too unreasonable. Old woman, you're thinking too much. Di Linxian felt helpless. This woman's thoughts were really complicated. Isn't it because they always have to go out and train? I'm already so old now, and I can't bear to see that. I also know that I can't control them if they want to go out. However, if they can give birth to a great-grandson, I can stay at home and take care of my great-grandson. Naturally, I won't miss them. That makes sense. Di Linxuan's face turned serious. When they return, I'll have to urge them. Di Yujue and Lin Yinqing listened to their parent conversation, and a deep smile appeared in their eyes. Although they did not want to rush them, they would not mind if they could have a grandchild sooner. If Xiaofeng sees this, he'll probably have a headache again. Lin Yinqing laughed involuntarily. She knew Xiaofeng's temper the best. Every time this problem was brought up, Xiaofeng would always think of ways to avoid it. Of course, part of the reason was because of Yi. They all hoped that Xiaofeng could be together with Yi. However, the situation was not as good as they thought it would be. She was able to accept this. Young people valued relationships the most. If they couldn't be with the person they liked, it would be extremely difficult for them. It's all right. Leave this matter to father and mother. We don't have to worry about it. You sure are happy to be idle. Lin Yun glanced at Di Yujue, her eyes full of flirtatiousness. Di Yujue sighed inwardly. Even when his wife was glaring at him, she was still so dazzling. Fortunately, after so many years, the enmity between them had finally been resolved. Just as everyone was talking, the sound of footsteps came from not far away. They turned around and saw Di Xiaofeng and the others. When they saw that everyone was safe and sound, they were completely relieved. Di Beichen and the others noticed the figures of Di Yujue and the others from afar. Immediately, a joyful smile appeared on their faces. Grandfather, grandmother, father, mother, you're finally back. Xiao Wanrong quickly greeted them and carefully looked at Di Beichen and the others. Are you hurt? Chapter 5175. As Di Xiaofeng's words fell, Lin Xianxian and others couldn't help but laugh. What he said was really true. Not only Di Xiaofeng, but all of them were lucky to be taken care of by Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. Otherwise, with their strength, they would not be able to come back safely this time. However, Xiao Wanrong and others were a little confused after hearing this. What do you mean by this? Xiao Wanrong was a little puzzled. Beichen's strength has surpassed yours. According to Beichen's previous situation in the family, there should still be some gap between his strength and Di Xiaofeng's. Could it be that his speed of improvement was so fast that he had surpassed Di Xiaofeng in a short time? No cultivation. Di Xiaofeng shook his head. Then I don't understand even more. Xiao Wanrong was confused and turned to look at Di Linxian. Di Linxian naturally didn't know what happened, but he didn't speak. He just turned his gaze to Di Xiaofeng. This kid will definitely explain. Beichen's cultivation is indeed not higher than mine, but his combat power doesn't match his cultivation at all. It's simply terrifying. Di Xiaofeng's eyes were filled with deep emotion. Once Di Beichen summoned the skeleton army, ordinary people were no match for him at all. Especially in a group battle, Di Beichen could fight against 100 alone. Now even he couldn't help but envy him. If he also had the dark attribute, it would be really amazing. Yes, second cousin's combat power is too terrifying. Linny nodded. Not only second cousin, but second cousin-in-law's means are also very powerful. This time, the most prominent people in the immortal cloud secret realm are second cousin and second cousin-in-law. Which force doesn't know their name now? As soon as these words came out, Di Yujue and Lin Yinqing couldn't help but look at each other. This situation was really beyond their expectations. Tell grandmother what exactly is going on. Xiao Wanrong looked at Lin Yi with a smile. She really liked this lively and lovely girl. It was a pity that Di Yujue and Lin Yinqing didn't have a daughter later on. Otherwise, it would be really delightful to see such a happy little girl. Lin Yi took a step forward and held Xiao Wanrong's hand. Grandmother, listen to me carefully. This time, we have really broadened our horizons. All right, then tell me in detail. Di Yujue looked at the group of disciples behind him, and a deep smile appeared on his handsome face. Welcome back. As Di Yujue's voice fell, the cultivators all revealed looks of joy. It felt good to be home. At the same time, they also understood that after this experience, their status in the family would also rise. In the future, they might be responsible for more important matters in the family. This was the importance of training and increasing one's strength. It was extremely beneficial to them. Most importantly, they had obtained immortal spirit pills from this trial. This was the most important reward. The other disciples follow the great elder to receive rewards and resources first. You have worked hard these days. Have a good rest first. Di Yujue smiled and looked at the high-spirited faces in front of him. These young people would become the mainstay of the family in the future. Yes, thank you, family master. When they heard that they could receive rewards and cultivation resources, the smiles on everyone's faces became more intense. Chapter 5176. Conference Hall. Everyone from the D family and the Lin family gathered here. Mo Yunjue and others went back to their residence to rest first. Originally, Deep Beichin planned to let everyone come together. For them, Mo Yunjue and others were their own people, so there was nothing to worry about. However, when Xiren and others still found an excuse to leave, even if Di Beichin and Lin Yiqian regarded them as their own people, it was still inappropriate to participate at this time. In this regard, Di Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang did not insist. They believed that as time passed, they would no longer be unfamiliar with each other. Xiao Wanrong had been listening to Lin Yi's narration along the way. As she listened more, the surprise on her face became stronger. In fact, not only Xiao Wanrong, but Di Lin Xian and others were also listening carefully. Even if Di Beiqian and others had returned safely now, they also wanted to know how they gained experience during this time. Is everything you said true? Even though Xiao Wanrong tried to keep calm, she couldn't help but ask after listening to these thrilling experiences. She even suspected that these little guys deliberately made it up to tease her. Grandmother, what I said is naturally true. Lin Yi looked serious. If you don't believe me, you can ask my sister. There is absolutely no lie. Hearing this, Xiao Wanrong's gaze couldn't help but turn to Lin Qianqian. Lin Qianqian also nodded and said, Grandmother, what Yi said is true. This time, if it weren't for Beichin and Hongzhuang, not only us, but almost all the cultivators who entered the Immortal Cloud's secret realm would have been wiped out. Yes, it was really thrilling this time. Lin Taxing sighed. Grandmother, you didn't see how dangerous the situation was at that time. Beichin and Hongzhuang were like gods. If it had been in the past, Lin Taxing would never have used such a word to describe it. But recalling the situation at that time, Di Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang's means were indeed like gods, which was unbelievable. He believed that he was not the only one. The other cultivators must have had the same thought at that time. Seeing the situation, Xiao Wanrong and the rest looked at each other in dismay. This result was seriously too out of their expectations. I really didn't expect my precious grandson and granddaughter-in-law to be so powerful. Xiao Wanrong looked at Di Beichin and Di Beichin with a look of pleasant surprise. In fact, she had always known that Di Beichin would definitely achieve great things in the future. Even if his cultivation was not comparable to that of the younger generation, with the heavenly mandate body, he only needed a certain amount of time and sufficient cultivation resources to grow at an astonishing speed. However, she did not expect that Di Beichin's growth would be so fast. In such a short period of time, he had reached this step. Not only Di Beichin, but Bailey Hongzhuang also gave her a huge surprise. Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other and smiled. Even they themselves could not judge the fighting strength that erupted at that critical moment. However, they were also satisfied with their performance at that time. Di Yujue's eyes were full of splendor. This news really surprised him. Beichun, how did you summon the skeleton army? Di Yujue gazed at Di Beichun with surprise and joy in his deep, dark eyes. This was undoubtedly the happiest thing for him. Chapter 51-77. The inheritance of the dark attribute had disappeared hundreds of years ago. All these years, he had never seen any cultivator of the dark attribute achieve great results. Di Beichen was his son and the future head of the Di family. If he was shackled because of this, it would undoubtedly be a terrible situation. And now, after listening to everything that everyone had said, his previous worries were naturally resolved. Di Yujue was not the only one who was curious. Everyone present was curious about this. Their eyes immediately fell on Di Beichun, as they wanted to know the result. Di Beichun smiled brightly when he sensed everyone's gaze. I've obtained the inheritance of the dark attribute before, so I've already mastered the cultivation method of the dark attribute. This isn't a problem for me. As soon as these words came out, everyone finally understood. You've actually found the inheritance of the dark attribute. Di Lin Xian's eyes were filled with surprise. All these years, almost all the cultivators of the dark attribute have been searching for the inheritance. I never thought that the inheritance would end up in your hands. Due to the decline of the dark attribute, coupled with the discrimination and oppression they had been suffering all these years, almost all the cultivators of the dark attribute held their breaths, hoping that they would have the chance to change the situation. However, after so many years, no one had found it. Looks like Beichen is someone with great luck. Di Lin Xian chuckled. His dignified face was filled with smiles. He no longer looked stern and was replaced with kindness and friendliness. Di Yujue nodded slightly. When he was in the lower realm, it meant that Di Beichen had obtained the inheritance of the dark attribute before his attribute had even awakened. This meant that everything had already paved the way for him. In this situation, to them, Di Beichen was someone with great luck. Luck, this kind of inexplicable thing, was a real existence. As long as one had great luck, one's future achievements would definitely not be weak. Lin Yinqing felt a burst of joy in her heart. Beichen has been wandering outside for so many years. Not only did he return safely, but he also reached this step. I also believe that he will definitely go far in the future. Perhaps it was because they owed Di Beichen all these years, but all the elders in the family were especially good to him. They only hoped that he would have a smooth journey. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichen with a faint smile. She felt happy for him from the bottom of her heart when she felt the concern from so many family members. Just then, Lin Taxing's voice rang out again. Uncle, actually, I think that if there's a chance, we should ask Hongzhuang to go to the Holy Light Assembly. Regarding this point, he already had an idea in his heart. What does that mean? Lin Yinqing raised her eyebrows. She knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was a cultivator of the light attribute, so it was natural for her to go to the Holy Light Assembly. However, Lin Taxing naturally did not want to talk about this issue at this time. After this trip to the Immortal Cloud secret territory, we feel that Hongzhuang may be more suitable than Xiao Sou to be the Holy Light Assembly saint, Lin Taxing said with a serious expression. No matter how we look at it, Xiao Sou cannot compare to Hongzhuang. Chapter 51-78. If they weren't 100% sure before, then after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang surpassing Xiao Sou on the Bridge of Light, this thought became even more firm. How long has Bailey Hongzhuang been in contact with the light force? She actually comprehended faster than Xiao Sou. From the looks of it, as long as she was given more time to improve her comprehension of the light force, she would definitely surpass the other party. I agree to. Di Xiaofeng nodded. The reason why the Jun family was so arrogant before was because they were in cahoots with the Xiao family. The Xiao family is most famous for Xiao Sou, But once Hong Zhuang replaces Xiao Sou's position as the Saint of Light, everything will be different. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel excited. If they succeeded, they could completely break the alliance between the Xiao family and the Jun family. In fact, this way, the other party wouldn't be able to pose any threat to them. Hearing this, Di Yujue and the others looked at each other. When they knew about Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in the light attribute, this thought had already appeared in their minds. Now that everyone said this, it seemed that their wife's performance in this aspect was really outstanding. Lin Yinqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and asked, "Hongzhuang, what do you think? If Bailey Hongzhuang could become the Saint of Light, it would naturally be very beneficial to their family." However, it all depended on Bailey Hongzhuang's own thoughts. Everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. According to their thoughts, Bailey Hongzhuang should not refuse because no matter who it was a great thing. However, Bailey Hongzhuang hesitated. Bai Yunjiao and He Shinjuan's experience had left a deep impression on her. If the two of them weren't together, then either one of them would be an extremely extraordinary existence. However, they died of depression because they couldn't be together. Until now, she still didn't understand the situation that Bai Yunjiao was talking about. If I become the Saint of Light, will it have an impact on all of this? I need some time to think about it, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Her tone was calm, but she was deep in thought. Di Beichun naturally knew Bailey Hongzhuang's concerns. When he heard her make such a decision, he was not surprised. Regarding this point, they indeed needed to carefully consider it. Everyone was stunned after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's answer. Obviously, they couldn't believe what they saw. Second cousin-in-law, it's an honor to become the Saint of Light. With this identity, Lin Yunjiao's eyes. And Lin Yi couldn't help but speak. Lin Yi couldn't help but speak out. She suddenly realized that what she said might not be appropriate. So she said, "Of course, with your ability, no one dares to despise you now. But in this way, Xiao Sou won't have the capital to show off in front of you in the future." Lin Xianxian and others also stared at Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Lin Yi's words were a little anxious, they had to admit that all of this was true. They really couldn't understand the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang refused. Lin Yinqing immediately said after seeing this scene, "Everyone, don't worry. Since Hongzhuang made such a decision, she naturally has her reasons." Chapter 51-79. Bailey Hongzhuang looked up at Di Yujue and Lin Yinqing with an apologetic look on her delicate and elegant face. "I'm sorry. Silly girl, what's there to be sorry about?" Lin Yinqing smiled faintly. "This is your own business. Of course, it's up to you to decide. You don't have to care about other people's opinions." "That's right. If you don't like it, then forget it." Xiao Wanrong also expressed her concern. "In my opinion, there's nothing great about being the Holy Maiden of Light. If you don't want it, then don't." Seeing this, Lin Taxing and the others looked at each other. Although they did not understand why Bailey Hongzhuang hesitated, they understood after calming down that with her temperament, she naturally had her reasons for making such a decision. Bailey Hongzhuang felt apologetic, but she was also helpless in this situation. Di Beichun patted Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder and said to the puzzled crowd, "Hongzhuang's hesitation has something to do with me." With the sound of Di Beichun's voice falling, everyone was slightly surprised, but they immediately understood. One of them was of the dark attribute, while the other was of the light attribute. Even if they were together now, it would cause criticism. If Bailey Hongzhuang became the Holy Maiden of Light, then the situation would only be more complicated. "I see." Lin Xianxian suddenly understood. "This is indeed a little complicated. We have to think about it carefully." Di Yujue and the others, who were also puzzled at first, looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with even more affection after understanding this point. Even though they had always known that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had a very good relationship, this kind of behavior touched them even more. If it were an ordinary person, they would definitely agree without hesitation when faced with such an outstanding situation. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's first thought was Di Beichun. Lin Yunqing's gaze became increasingly gentle. From the moment she had met Bailey Hongzhuang, she knew that she was a good girl. The current situation proved that she had deep feelings for Beichen. If she let down such a good girl, she would not be able to forgive herself. The two of you have completely opposite natures. Once Hongzhuang becomes the saintess of the light, she will definitely think of ways to make an issue out of this matter. In addition, the Shao clan has already decided that the Holy Maiden of Light is in their clan. If we want to overthrow them, they will definitely obstruct us. This matter, indeed, needs to be considered at length. Di Linxuan's face sank slightly. Actually, he already knew that it would be difficult to complete this task. However, he realized that the situation was much more complicated than he had imagined after hearing what Di Linxian had said. He didn't need to put in more effort. Anyway, there's no need to rush this matter, Di Yujue said slowly. Do you have any understanding of this matter this time? Do you know when Xiao Sou will inherit the position of Saint of Light? We don't know, Di Xiaofeng replied. Xiao Sou has never mentioned this in front of anyone. According to our judgment, I'm afraid that she won't be able to become the real Saintess of Light. However, we don't know the exact reason. Oh, Xiao Wanrong was surprised. How can you tell? Previously, someone brought up this topic to ask Xiao Sou, but she looked very troubled. Di Xiaofeng's expression was serious. He had seen this scene clearly at that time. Hearing this, Di Linxian and Xiao Wanrong looked at each other, and some thoughts suddenly appeared in their minds. Chapter 5180. Could it be that Xiao Se Wu had never been able to become the true Saint of Light because the position of the Saint of Light was actually reserved for Bailey Hongzhuang? When this thought appeared in Di Linxian and Di Jiu Yaoyao's minds, they found it hard to believe. After all, for so many years, everyone had recognized Xiao Sou as the Saint of Light, and no one had ever questioned it. And now, the opportunity seemed to be right in front of them. Let's not talk about this for now. We'll talk about it in detail after we found out more about the situation. Di Yujue's voice rang out, and everyone stopped talking about it. Then, they talked about what had happened during this period of time. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not pay too much attention to it, because she had put all her attention on this matter. In the room, Di Beichen looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, who had a complicated expression and could not help but ask, "Wife, are you still thinking about that question?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. Beichun, actually, I don't understand how Master and the others could be forced into such a situation with their strength. It's just too shocking. Although she did not know by Yunjiao's true cultivation base, she could roughly guess it. At least, based on the cultivators she had met so far, there was probably no one who could surpass their master's strength. What you said is also something that I don't understand. Di Jiu Yaoyao's deep eyes were covered with a trace of seriousness. I always feel that Master and the others have many things that they haven't told us, and we'll have to figure it out ourselves. I don't think the Holy Assembly's requirements are that strict. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Di Beichun with a serious expression on her delicate face. Xiao Sou has been the Holy Assembly all these years, and she knows the situation very well. It's fine if she doesn't know that you're of the dark attribute, but she clearly knows that you're of the dark attribute, and yet she still insists on being with you. That proves it. Even when Xiao Sou later said that cultivators of the light and dark attributes would not have a good ending if they were to combine, Bailey Hongzhuang did not take it to heart. That was because Xiao Sou knew that it was impossible for her to obtain it, so she made up an excuse. That's right. Di Beichen naturally understood. He pulled Bailey Hongzhuang's little hand and stroked her brows with his slender fingers, smoothing her furrowed brows. Wife, perhaps the situation isn't as complicated as it is. We're not clear about it yet, but we've already sent someone to gather information from the Holy Assembly. Don't think too much to think about this matter. Leave it to me. The warm and magnetic voice seemed to have a magical power, soothing the worries in Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. A faint smile appeared on Bailey Hongzhuang's fair, jade-like face. She nodded gently and stared at the perfect, godlike face in front of her. Her heart suddenly calmed down. That's right, no matter what, I'll always have Di Beichen by my side. After the disciples went back to rest, Diujue called the elders over to discuss the matter in the discussion hall. The situation this time was clearly better than they had imagined. Therefore, the atmosphere in the meeting hall was very harmonious and filled with joy. Chapter 5181. Family Head. The young master's performance this time was too outstanding. Di Chiyuan's face was full of smiles. I also heard the news from the other family elders. Everyone is full of praise for our young master's ability. Previously, when he was in Waterchi City, he met several family elders. When they talked about the situation in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, there were even people who came to thank him on behalf of the family disciples. Previously, many people snorted when they heard that our young master had returned. They thought that our young master had been wandering outside all these years, and that his strength was not enough to take up the position of young master. However, after this incident, I believe that no one will criticize him anymore. The second elder's face was also full of joy. When he thought of the mocking looks of those people before, he felt a wave of displeasure. However, after this incident, they were finally able to hold their heads high. The young master and young master's wife are really a match made in heaven. This time, their strength is really extraordinary. Di Hengyun chuckled. I think that the young master is the hope of our family. He is a gift from heaven to our Di family. Di Ujue smiled as he listened to everyone's praises. His heart was also full of pride. This was his son. No matter how many people doubted his ability, in the end, he would shut them all up with facts. Family Head. This time, only Jun Lingxuan returned from the Jun family. The other cultivators have all died in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm. This time, the Jun family must have suffered a heavy blow. They won't be able to be arrogant in the short term. Di Chiyuan's eyes were full of pride and satisfaction. The Jun family had been their old enemy all these years. They always thought of ways to cause trouble for them. Now that he saw the Jun family in such a state, he was naturally very happy. That's right. The Jun family should have received this retribution long ago. Who told them to always think of ways to cause trouble for us all these years? Di Yuna's eyes were full of disgust. Thinking back to what had happened to Medicine Master Qin, if it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, they would have become a joke in the eyes of everyone. Those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. This is the retribution they deserve. Di Ujue's eyes darkened. He was going to uproot the Jun family sooner or later. According to his investigation, it was highly likely that the Jun family was behind Di Beichen's assassination. He could ignore other matters, but this matter was absolutely intolerable. This damn guy actually dared to extend his tentacles towards his own child. If it wasn't for Di Beichen's luck, he would never have been able to see him again in this lifetime. Although the Jun family has a lot of young disciples, those who win in this time are all extremely outstanding. Even Jun Sitao has fallen. This time, the Jun family has really suffered a great loss. It will take some time for them to nurture other young disciples. It will be very difficult for them to steal the limelight again. Di Yujue nodded slightly and did not elaborate further on this issue. Although the loss of the younger generation wasn't small, it wasn't enough to hurt the entire Jun family, even though it was painful. However, they had all the time in the world. He would tear the Jun family apart bit by bit. Not only that, the immortal spirit herbs that the young master obtained this time will be of great use to our family. Chapter 5182. When the rest of the elders heard this, they were all stunned. Their faces were filled with astonishment. Eighth Elder, are you talking about the immortal spiritual herb? Di Heng Yun nodded slightly. That's right, the immortal spiritual herb. This treasure is extremely rare. Usually, it's priceless. I didn't expect the young master to have such a great harvest in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm. It's really a surprise. After hearing Di Heng Yun's affirmative answer, a commotion broke out in the meeting hall. From what I know, it's extremely difficult to refine the immortal spiritual herb into an immortal spiritual pill, right? A trace of worry appeared in Second Elder's eyes. If we want to hire someone from the Alchemist Guild, we'll have to pay a hefty price. With the D family's reputation, it wasn't difficult to hire someone from the Alchemist Guild. However, the loss of a treasure like the immortal spiritual herb was heartbreaking. If they wanted to hire someone to refine it, they'd have to pay a hefty price. Hearing Second Elder's worry, he couldn't help but smile. Second Elder, don't worry. This matter has been resolved. Oh, Second Elder was slightly stunned. How was this matter resolved? Our young master's wife has successfully refined the immortal spiritual pill. For what I know, her success rate is extremely high. Even though Di Yunhe's face was calm, he was shocked when he first heard this news. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang's performance in the alchemy competition had already proven her ability. He didn't expect that after not seeing her for a while, Bailey Hongzhuang could even refine the immortal spiritual pill. This talent was truly shocking. Following Di Yunhe's words, the entire meeting hall fell silent for a moment. Then there was an explosion of enthusiastic exclamations. Our young master's wife can actually refine the immortal spiritual pill. Her alchemy skills are truly extraordinary. This is great. With our young master's wife, we won't have to worry about this matter anymore. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Bailey Hongzhuang's performance had given them too many surprises. Especially after hearing about Bailey Hongzhuang's performance in the Immortal Cloud Secret Realm, they were even more shocked. Even if they had never had any objections to the family's decision, when they learned that the head of the family had rejected the marriage with the Shao family for Bailey Hongzhuang, and even lost a helper, their hearts were still full of complaints. After all, losing the Shao family and giving the Jun family an additional helper. This was a great loss for them. But now, after understanding all of this, their previous thoughts began to change. Their young master's wife's young master's abilities. Both the young master and young madam are first-rate geniuses. Our family will definitely prosper in the future. Di Qiyuan's face was full of pride. Thinking back to the time when they returned from Qishui City, they really had limitless glory. Di Yujue quietly looked at the elders present, feeling their joy and approval. He was also very happy in his heart. This was undoubtedly the situation he wanted to see the most. Chapter 5183. The discussion in the meeting hall went very smoothly. Everyone was sharing their joy. Seeing that the younger generation was able to obtain such a harvest and win such glory for the family. As the elders, they felt incomparably happy. I didn't expect the young master to be of the dark attribute, but now it seems that the dark attribute is very strong. The second young master sighed. Compared to the immortal herbs, this news shocked him more. Although the attribute didn't have much to do with a person, it was hard to associate the young master with the dark attribute from his appearance. The dark attribute isn't a big deal. As long as you are strong, what does it matter what attribute you have? The third elder said calmly. Looking at the third elder's calm face, Di Hung Yun couldn't help but look at Di Yunhe and whisper, "Didn't the third elder look down on the dark attribute?" That was before. Di Yunhe chuckled. Ever since he found out that the young master is of the dark attribute, the third elder's attitude changed. It's as if he wasn't the one who looked down on the dark attribute. Whatever, let's not expose him now. Di Hung Yin tried to hold back his laughter. He clearly remembered the third elder's expression when he talked about the dark attribute. The speed of his change was really admirable. Not only Di Hung Yin and Di Yunhe, but all the elders knew the third elder's temper very well. Therefore, they all thought it was very funny. After discussing the arrangements for the disciples in detail, they dispersed. Inside the room, Lin Yinqing looked at Di Yujue, who was in a very good mood, and couldn't help but ask, "Are you still thinking about Beichin and the others?" She noticed that Di Yujue had been thinking about something since he came back, but the corners of his lips were always curled up. Di Yujue nodded slightly. "Yinqing, Beichin has really satisfied me. Do you know that Beichin has built up a very high reputation among the disciples of the clan? Earlier, When the first elder and I were strolling outside, we heard many of the younger generation talking about Bewitching. It's different from before. Now, there is only admiration and respect. Hearing this, Lin Yunqing's face also bloomed into a smile. She suddenly said, "You're going to understand the thoughts of the clan's disciples, right?" "That's right," Di Yuzhua admitted frankly. "Previously, I was a little worried that it would be difficult for Beichan to gain everyone's trust since he had just returned. I also want to know if everyone's thoughts would change after this incident. Now, it seems that the situation is better than I thought." "I was worried about this too," Lin Yunqing sighed. She was naturally overjoyed when Beichan returned. But at the same time, she was worried that Beichan would be under too much pressure. After all, there had been quite a big gap in strength over the years. Thinking back to when Beichan and the others had almost no rest and were in seclusion all day long, she also felt extremely distressed. He felt that if it weren't for the pressure, Beichan wouldn't have fought so hard without any time to rest. However, right now, she was more proud of her son. He was so outstanding. Now, we don't have to worry anymore. Beichan and Hongzhuang are both smart children and very capable. Chapter 5184. Compared to the joyous atmosphere in the D family, the atmosphere in the Jun family was the complete opposite. After Jun Xianxiao brought Jun Lingxuan back to the Jun family, everyone in the Jun family found out that only one of the 10 cultivators was left. Everyone's mood fell to the bottom, and the entire Jun family was shrouded in a layer of haze. "Lingxuan, were you ambushed by the D family?" Jun Hongcheng, the head of the Jun family, stared at Jun Lingxuan with a solemn and repressed expression. His slightly deep voice carried a strong sense of oppression, causing everyone present to hold their breaths for fear of angering him. Jun Lingxuan lowered his head. If they had really been ambushed by Di Beichun and the others, it would have been fine. However, this was not the case this time. This time, we encountered many dangers in the Divine Cloud's secret realm, and all of them died due to accidents. Following Jun Lingxuan's words, the head of the family and the elders in the meeting hall could not help but be stunned. They were almost certain that all of this was the doing of the D family and were thinking about how to take revenge on the D family. However, they were now told that all of them had died due to accidents. This was even more unacceptable than dying at the hands of the D family's cultivators. What accident could have caused you to suffer such heavy losses? Jun Hongcheng frowned. This situation was also beyond his expectations. However, this calmed his anger down a little. Head of the family, the situation in the Divine Cloud's secret realm this time was different from the past. Not only us, but many other forces also suffered heavy losses. However, Jun Shitao died at the hands of Di Beichun. Jun Lingxuan's face was filled with intense hatred at the mention of Jun Shitao's death. If Xiao Shou did not have an escape talisman with her, I would have died there as well. Unfortunately, the escape talisman can only take 2 people away. I cannot save Shitao. The boy from the D family? Jun Hongcheng raised his eyebrows. His gaze was gloomy and complicated, and there was even a trace of suspicion. He just returned to the D family not long ago, and his strength is already so strong that even you are no match for him? That's right. That Di Beichun is only from the lower realm. He's not strong enough. Everyone looked at each other. From the beginning to the end, they had never taken Di Beichun seriously. Speaking of which, this matter is rather strange. Jun Lingxuan sighed. That Di Beichun and Bailey Hongzhuang have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. They don't look like people from the lower realm at all. These guys are just pretending to be weak. I think this might be a ploy by the D family to trick us. Now, he was more and more certain that this was a trap deliberately designed by Di Beichun and the others. On the surface, they looked as if they were no match for him at all, waiting for him to take the bait. Tell me the details of the situation, Jun Hongcheng said slowly. Based on what they had learned so far, the more they listened, the more confused they became. Jun Lingxuan did not hide anything. He immediately told them about the various situations he had encountered in the Immortal Cloud's secret realm. Initially, everyone in the conference hall only had anger in their hearts. However, after listening to all of this, everyone's expressions turned solemn. Great Elder, what do you think? Jun Hongqing looked at Jun Xianxiao and asked. Jun Xianxiao stepped forward and said, in my opinion, Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang are not simple. We can no longer ignore them. Chapter 5185. Every time he thought of the previous situation, Jun Xianxiao couldn't help but feel depressed. If they hadn't fallen into the D family's trap back then, as long as they didn't make that bet, the Jun family would still have a lot of spots. If there were more cultivators, at least the situation wouldn't be so miserable this time. That kid from the D family is strange. We have to send someone to find out more about him and find out his real trump card, said the second elder. There was a trace of regret on his face. We should have thought of this before. If this kid wasn't strange, Di Yujua wouldn't have recognized him as the young master of the D family. Everyone couldn't help but sigh. Previously, almost all of them thought that Di Yujua insisted on this decision because he felt guilty about Di Beichun. Who would have thought that this wasn't the case at all? It was because Di Beichun had the strength to do so. Family head, we have to ask the D family to pass on some important information. If we could have known this earlier, we wouldn't have ended up in this situation now. The third elder frowned, and a malicious light flashed in his eyes. Their original plan had always been very good. If it weren't for the lack of accurate information later, they wouldn't have ended up in this situation now. Hearing this, Jun Hongqing narrowed his eyes. Ever since Di Yujua was discovered, I'm afraid that Di Kaiyuan has been on guard and has been looking for spies in the family. It won't be easy to pass on information under his watchful eyes. That's right. I'm afraid it's not convenient for us to act now. If we're discovered, it'll be really bad. Jun Xuanqiao's expression was solemn. We have to think about this matter at length. That's right. It took us a lot of time to set up this plan. Everything was close to completion, but we didn't expect to fail because of Di Beichun's appearance. The third elder sighed. They had seen the light of dawn before. Who would have thought that in the end, it would be all for naught? We weren't decisive enough back then. If Di Beichun had really died, then there wouldn't be so much trouble now. What a pity, what a pity. Jun Lingxuan listened to the sighs of the group of elders, and a deep sense of helplessness appeared on his face, followed by a fierce expression. No matter what, I must avenge Shi Tao. I want Di Beichun and the others to be buried with Shi Tao. That's right. They must pay with their lives. Jun Hongqing's eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty, killing intent. Shi Tao was his most beloved son. Now that he had died in the hands of these damn bastards, how could he not be angry? Patriarch, don't worry. I will personally kill Di Beichun to avenge Shi Tao. Patriarch, don't worry. I will personally kill Di Beichun to avenge Shi Tao. His ink-black eyes flashed with anger and hatred. Jun Lingxuan secretly swore that he would definitely avenge her. You should cultivate well. It's okay to suffer a loss this time. Next time, you must find a way to get back at them. Jun Xianxiao looked at Jun Hongqing and said, Patriarch, in addition to this matter, there is now an extremely troublesome problem. What is it? Jun Hongqing's face turned solemn. The news he had heard so far was already very bad. How could there be another troublesome problem? Chapter 5186. The Xiao Family. As Xiao Souwu and the others returned to the Xiao family, although they did not suffer many casualties, their mood was equally gloomy. When Xiao Yanlong found out that Jun Lingxuan was the only one who returned alive from the Jun family, he sighed. Father, the reason why the Jun family suffered such heavy casualties this time is because they sent too few cultivators on this trip. That's why they ended up in such a situation. Xiao Soa looked at Xiao Yanlong, whose expression was slightly gloomy and could not help but speak up for Jun Lingxuan. Of course I know about this reason, but it's definitely not the only reason. With Xiao Yanlong's age and experience, He naturally had a deep understanding of the situation. Although there were some irresistible factors, if he was strong enough, he would definitely have a way to do it better. Hearing this, Xiao Shou paused for a moment and swallowed the excuse she was about to give. Comparing Jun Lingxuan and Di Beichen's performance this time, you should be very clear in your heart, right? Xiao Yanlong glanced at Xiao Shou indifferently, his serious and calm face revealing a bit of helplessness and lamentation. Father, you can't say it like that. Xiao Sudong could not help but speak up. Previously, it was Di Beichen who let sister down. No matter what, it's impossible to achieve a marriage alliance. Even if it's not a marriage alliance, the friendship between the two sides still exists. Xiao Yanlong's brows revealed a trace of regret. What's more, because of this, the Di family feels guilty towards us. It's better for us. However, now that we're completely hostile, there's no point in saying these words. Regarding this matter, Xiao Yanlong was undoubtedly the most helpless. All this time, the Xiao family and the Di family's relationship have been extremely close. He never thought that he would cut off all ties with the Di family in his hands. Not only did they cut off ties, but they also became enemies. One had to know that when Di Beichen rejected the marriage, he was indeed extremely unhappy. However, Di Yujua's attitude had always been very good, and he even thought of ways to compensate them. If they entered the Immortal Cloud's secret realm this time, they would still be family friends. Needless to say, Xiao Shou and the others would definitely gain more. Following Xiao Yanlong's words, Xiao Sudong and Xiao Shou both sank into silence. That was indeed true. Father, this matter is quite strange. Di Beichen's luck is truly extraordinary. Qin Feng from the Great Devil Sect and Murong Jing from the Murong clan actually got the chance to comprehend the Primal Chaos Sacred Tablet because of their good relationship. This is simply unbelievable. A deep sigh appeared on Xiao Sudong's face. Until now, he still found it hard to believe that all of this was actually true. This kind of luck wasn't a little too good? What did you say? Xiao Yanlong's expression abruptly changed as dense shock surfaced on his face. Primal Chaos Sacred Tablet. That's right. Xiao Sudong nodded. However, elder sister's luck is also very good. She got the chance to comprehend the Radiant Sacred Tablet. Unfortunately, in the end, she still couldn't defeat Bailey Hongzhuang and lost the chance to obtain the inheritance. What exactly is going on? The sigh on Xiao Yanlong's face immediately disappeared and was replaced by a solemn and serious expression. Tell me about this matter in detail. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.